Chair Linda Lopez.
Here.
Vice Chair Rafael Avendano.
Present.
Councilmember Laura Kaplan. Councilmember Beatrice Cerrillo.
Present.
Councilmember Mary Martinez.
Present.
Councilmember Dale Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Esperanza Vasquez.
Present.
Youth Member Diane Zermeño. And then alternate Youth Member Jose Rodriguez.
Here.
Thanks, Irving. We always start our meetings with a public comment, and anyone who has a comment to make, you have 2 minutes. And I do need for you to fill out a card. And also, what you speak to is not going to be something on the agenda. So anything outside of the agenda. And I have 2 cards here. Sam Kong. Yeah, you want to go up to the podium, Sam? You want to put the 2 minutes on when it gets there?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sam Gong, and I'm here with
Gong, I'm sorry.
Maggie Cruz. We're representing a local business called Launchpad Inc. We have a warehouse just around the corner at Redwood Junction, and we just wanted to introduce ourselves because we've applied for a liquor license. And so we wanted you to have a name that you could put with the business, and we encourage you to check out our website, which is mancrates.com. And the primary reason we're applying for the license is to sell gifts that contain liquor online in the state of California. And so we just wanted you to have a chance to ask us questions afterwards today or later on. We welcome you to come by. My email is just sam@mancrates.com, and we're looking forward to talking to you more later.
Where are you located?
2694 Middlefield Road. So we just walked here from our offices. It's just around the corner.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Omar Rodriguez.
Hello, my name is Omar Rodriguez. I apologize. I'm not even sure if this is the right forum to ask, but I'm taking advantage that I'm here about it. Born and raised here. I own 151 Fifth Avenue and 171 Fifth Avenue. And I know you guys are here to talk about, which I believe, some stuff that's going on in that area. But I want to take advantage and ask about possibly changing some parking there in front of 171 Fifth Avenue, which is La Quinta Plaza. When they did the underpass, they put signs up there and they painted green and they made 20-minute zones. We're not opposed to it being green, but 20 minutes is not enough time to even change your shoes. So if this is the right form, if they can change it to an hour, that'd be great. And at 151 Fifth Avenue, which is right next door in the front, it is also commercial property. I'd like to request that it be painted green as well, because there's an apartment building next to us and they seem to park there and leave their cars all night long. And we'd like a 1 or 2 hour parking. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other public comments? No. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda, or excuse me, we're going to do the approval of minutes. I almost missed it. Minutes for February 26th. And I'll give you all a couple of minutes to review and then we can proceed. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes.
I'll second that.
Oh, what? Okay. So you want to make the motion, though? I can't place the motion. So,
I place a motion to
Oh.
approve the minutes
Okay,
for
Rafael.
February 26th, 2015.
and then Everett
And I'll second.
as the second. Thank you. Okay, no changes, no discussion. All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? You abstain. Okay, 1 abstention. Okay, thank you. So, oops, I'm not used to holding this thing. Okay, let's see, we're going to hear a report from Public Works regarding the Selby Park Neighborhood proposed solutions to concerns related to the Waverly Place Project. And Joe Coco is here from Public Works. And Joe, you have the podium.
Good evening and welcome. So just real quickly, we had a conversation recently with Selby Park community, and they approached us with a number of requests, trying to deal with issues as far as essentially the appearance of the entrance into the neighborhood, some of the traffic issues, some of the parking issues. And so what I'm here to do today is to talk to you a little bit about that conversation, the nature of the requests, and some of the things that we've looked at and we believe we can do versus some of those things that we don't think we can accommodate. For the most part, I think there's some simple changes that we can incorporate that can make the circulation through there a little bit better, but I'll just walk you through here a little bit. So that is the background, is that we were approached recently. Does this pop out? There we go. So we were approached recently by the Selby Park community. We sat down, we met with them. We looked in detail at the various things that they were requesting. Again, it was traffic related, circulation related, and also had to do with the entrance into the community. From a parking perspective, I've highlighted here in red some of the areas where they were considering or wishing that we would look at some parking changes. These are all marked in red, but they just kind of represent changes. So really, over here is the Fifth Avenue. It's the bridge that goes across.
I wonder if we turn the light, can we dim the light? That's really hard to see. Thank you.
Okay, good. So over on the bridge, really what they were asking about is what opportunities were there to basically enhance that parking out there. Part of the issue being that there is kind of a shortage of parking here, and part of the shortage of parking there is a result of the employees of some of the businesses parking directly in front. So that kind of takes away from the opportunity for some of the constituents utilizing that area to park. So that was a request for, can we look at somehow enhancing parking at these other locations? The request was kind of more on the lines of limiting parking, and some of this is actually things that are actually already happening or where requests have already been started. We can get into that in a little bit. Here's just a quick summary of the requests. They thought, we had a discussion with them about some street lights, which have been fixed. On El Camino and East Selby Lane, there's some sight distance issues right as you come out of East Selby, and there was a belief that there was a red curb painted there before, which would keep cars back far enough so that as you exit East Selby, you'd be able to see El Camino traffic fairly well. We looked at it, and we do concur that there was historically a red zone there. It looks like it was probably painted over by somebody over time. Right now it's kind of like just a gray paint, but we don't have an ordinance for it, so we're going to look to try to reestablish a red zone just adjacent to that corner. That'll allow for more sight distance for vehicles pulling out. The Fifth Avenue Bridge, again, the request there was whether we could somehow enhance the parking. It's pretty tight. If you look at the amount of room on one side, it's only 16 feet from the center line to the outside edge of the bridge, or I think 17 feet, which would just allow for, actually it's 16, I'm sorry. Potentially you could squeeze parking in there. So the narrowest you would want a lane to be is 9 feet. The narrowest you want a adjacent parking area to be is 7. So you could kind of squeeze it into 16. We don't prohibit parking right now, so it can be used. But I think there is limited opportunity for more because of the curves on either side. They're fairly tight, and they limit your accessibility into the area. Right now, the straight shot, it's about 125 feet. So probably it's set up right now for about the best it can be, which would be for about 6 cars to park there. There have been requests on Waverly Avenue to extend the no parking right around the corner off of Fifth Avenue. So in front of Waverly Place, there already is an application that is pending. The Waverly Place folks have asked for a no parking zone essentially around the perimeter of their property. So that's moving forward. So that's Waverly East, Waverly West. Glendale Avenue, there is also a request for a no parking extension. On the, I'll call it the west side of Glendale, no parking, you can't see it very well, but it already exists down the length of the one side of the street. On the, what I'll call the east side of Glendale Avenue, there's a no parking zone that exists for roughly 20 feet. And then there's a little bit of parking, and then there's a driveway. The parking between where the no parking is and the driveway probably supports about 3 vehicles. I think we're open to a potential extension, but I think you had a question earlier about parking. And normally the process is, so I'll give you my contact information and you can get a hold of me. But normally the process is if individual property owners have a request in front of their business, they'll contact us. We'll look at it from a technical perspective. If we believe it's a feasible, it makes sense from a technical perspective, then what we do, and historically what we've done is then sent notices to property owners, ask the property owners if they have concerns to kind of gauge whether there's support or opposition to the request. What we're doing moving forward is normally from there, we would go ahead and present to the board. But within North Fair Oaks, the new process is that we will also reach out to the council at that point in time, make sure that the council is aware of the requests that we're receiving, speak and present to the council before we move forward and make any kind of recommendation to our board. So Waverly and Columbia, there's a request for basically if you come off of East Selby, you'll see some entry gates, I'll call them. They're little planters that kind of squeeze in the entrance to the neighborhood. So we did take a look at, we said we'd go out and measure Waverly, and we don't support the idea of these chokers. Primarily, well, as a starting point, is that they don't fit, or 2 cars would not be able to fit while you had chokers. So Waverly is 26 feet wide. But if you put in these little planters, basically you'd have to keep them out of the entire gutter area so that water could flow. So what you're left with is a planter with 1-foot, 6-inch curbs on either side that's just 2 feet wide. That would get you where you would be choked enough where actually 2 lanes of traffic wouldn't technically have the room that is generally considered the space required for 2 lanes of traffic. And here you can see what Waverly looks like. So you can kind of get the sense that it is pretty tight for all the uses that it supports. Right now, parking is allowed except at the corner on both sides of the street, and there's 2 lanes of traffic that are allowed to use the road. The width technically doesn't support all of that. There will be, and certainly a area that is not going to be, where parking is not going to be allowed as you come around the corner, based on the Waverly, the health center request on the east side of Waverly. The west side of Waverly, we've indicated that we can take a look at some additional no parking as a possibility. Right now, there's a little no parking zone, and then there's a driveway just beyond that. So there's about 24 feet where you couldn't park, and then parking opens up a little bit. Normally, again, this is something, no parking requests, those requests are generated by the adjacent property owner. But where there's an issue that's a circulation type issue, in such an instance, Public Works could be the sponsor for a no parking request. So Fifth and Waverly, we talked about some new directional signs, and essentially it's not just Fifth and Waverly, it's pretty much that whole circulation pattern. coming east and west on Fifth Avenue that would get you into the community. And so we have agreed there are going to be 8 new signs that we're going to go ahead and install. Part of the issues that we see are that this turn onto Glendale, the visibility of it is not very good as you head on Fifth Avenue westbound. So even though there's a sign there that says Glendale coming up somewhere, I think it can catch you off guard. It's a sharp turn. People don't really see it very well. So we're looking to put some larger signs. We're looking to put, I believe we're going to put a distance marker on one of the signs to basically give the drivers a better feel as to how quickly this intersection is coming up so they can prepare for it. There was also the request for Fifth Avenue eastbound traffic to try to get them to use the bridge to kind of wrap around. And you wouldn't really know that from Google Maps or anything. So the thing that we're going to do in that direction is we're going to go ahead and sign essentially some of the addresses. We can still talk about exactly what that sign looks like, but the point there would be to try to, if you have business on the Fifth Avenue frontage road, to try to get people to loop around instead of back up behind the signal. And then the last thing here on Fifth Avenue is there's a little bit of a difficult merge that occurs here between the frontage road and what I'll call primary Fifth Avenue. And as you come through here, what happens is there is no definition regarding the lanes or the space that the vehicles are supposed to be in. So we're going to go ahead and look and do some striping enhancement to coming through here. It will require us to create a little bit longer no parking zone so that we can clearly establish a lane here that merges well with the main traffic on Fifth Avenue. We talked separately about the idea that the Samaritan House has some parking that doesn't seem to be fully utilized. Perhaps there's an opportunity for some of the businesses to make arrangements with the Samaritan House to utilize some of that parking for their employees themselves, so that that area of the parking can open up for those who are actually frequenting the businesses. And then the last request that we had on our docket was for no-through traffic signs. Those signs, we're not going to be able to accommodate that because those signs are required to be used only where traffic can't go through. And what you have through most of that area is you can actually kind of wind around, except for the last block of Columbia. So the last block of Columbia, it already has a no-through street sign. The rest of the areas, you can actually make your way from one location to another. So that's a summary of the requests. It's a summary of the things that we're going to be moving forward with. And from there, I'd like to open it up to questions.
Okay, we'll start with the council. Any questions regarding the presentation?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
And that is in regards to the last point, the miscellaneous, where no through traffic signs were requested. And I was wondering if whoever made that request meant to somehow prevent traffic cutting through those streets rather than just, deceiving.
Yeah, I think the interest is that, essentially that this be an area for neighborhood traffic. What I will say, and I failed to mention, is on Waverly and on Glendale. Maybe I can back up here. The primary sidewalk is out here. The street's out here, and there's kind of a strip in between that's been filled with concrete. That's an area where, if the community wished, we would have no opposition to neighborhood street signs going up in through there. The other thing I'll mention is that we did some analysis. We did some traffic analysis of the area. And I'm not quite sure the extent of cut-through traffic. Certainly, some could exist. But the data that we had was that the number of cars were completely in line with what you would project to be produced by that little part of the community. So there may be some cut-through traffic. We don't know. We're not out there every day. But it doesn't seem to be as if it would be a significant number. We also, when we did that analysis, we had some, because it's part of what we do when we go out there, is we did some speed analysis of the vehicles using the road. And it was quite slow on most of the streets. And I think that's really a result of, basically it's tight. So on Waverly, for example, 85% of the cars were driving 19 miles an hour or slower. I think Columbia was probably the fastest street, and that you could see why. It's a little bit wider, it's a longer straight shot, and I think on Columbia we were finding about 85% of the cars driving 23 miles an hour or less, and 15% driving faster than that. So I believe you're right, is that the whole idea was to define this as more of a community, a neighborhood that cars shouldn't drive through. At least the numbers we have doesn't show that there's a lot of that going on. Probably some. Again, the people who live there probably know better, are seeing it more than we are. But I'm sure that was the interest in that item.
Can you clarify on the entry gates? There was a recommendation to have entry gates around Waverly and Columbia and El Camino. Is that correct? I think that's correct.
So,
And I'm sorry, so you're saying because Waverly is only 26 feet wide that you couldn't do it?
Right. So well, to begin with,
and the rest of my question is, what about a bulb out, which isn't sticking out? It goes in, correct?
No, bulb out typically
Isn't a bulb
sticks out. So that's where
Oh, I thought a bulb out goes in.
typically at an intersection where you want to make the crossing shorter for the pedestrian, you actually swing the sidewalk out to go ahead and basically narrow that crossing. So a bulb out is basically a narrowing of the road at a certain location, usually to accommodate pedestrians. But so the math of it is on Waverly Avenue, the road is 26 feet. The gutters are 1.5 feet each. So if you have a 3-foot, 6-inch borders and a 2-foot planter strip outside of that valley gutter, so that would be 3 feet on either side, that would leave you minus the 1.5 gutters, minus the 3 feet for the planter. That would leave you 17 feet for the road section. So 17 feet is substandard. That does not support 2 lanes. And so dimensionally, that's what I was talking about. I mean, the other thing that I would have to kind of bring to your attention too, is that, with respect to anything, traffic control devices of some kind, we would want those to be put in where there's a defined issue. So, for example, years ago in the late 90s, when there was a large effort put forward to study the avenues and the chicanes were put in, those were put in primarily to deal with the speeding issue. On Fair Oaks Avenue, we were finding speeds of about 32 miles an hour was the 85th percentile. So 15% of the cars were driving faster than 32 miles an hour. The chicanes that were put in there, essentially they ended up slowing traffic to, I think it's like 24 an hour or something like that is the number on Fair Oaks. But it was to look at a defined issue that we could quantify. Here, we're not really seeing that. It seems like, I think the request is kind of for an aesthetic. And I think the chicanes, or the little planters, the one coming off of East Selby, it does look nice. But of course, East Selby's wider. If you look where the chicanes are on East Selby, you'll find that there's 20 feet between them. So there's fully 2 lanes in between the chicanes where 2 cars of traffic could go. If you're looking at a 17-foot roadway, That would not support, I mean, 2 cars probably could squeeze by, but that's less than would support 2 lanes of traffic. Our concern would be that that would generate additional congestion because cars can't pass each other and have to stay back. I think those were the primary
Okay.
issues, but the space itself wouldn't meet what the standard would be for minimum lanes.
The only other question I had, and I know you have something to say too, your comment about sharing the parking lot across the street from the Waverly Project, maybe I misunderstood you, Joe, but it sounds like you're putting that responsibility on the neighborhood. And I thought that the county would have a conversation. That's a nonprofit organization. I thought the county would have a conversation with the businesses, because the problem is, and I hope there's not going to be problems, but I kind of anticipate, with all the red curbing and the no parking around the Waverly, around that project, right now you have a number of cars and trucks that park there every day, and 2 things are going to happen. They're either going to push themselves further in the neighborhood, or they're going to look for other places to park. And ideally, and that's why the suggestion came up that, there's some parking across the street, maybe some kind of an agreement could happen. But I got the impression you're putting that on the community as opposed to the county having a conversation.
Yeah, and we're not opposed to trying to assist with the dialogue, but I'd say what the discussion that really that we had in my recollection centered around the businesses, some of the businesses making arrangements with the Samaritan House to utilize some of their parking. So specific businesses saying, asking their employees to park somewhere else. So the agreement itself, I don't see that as a county agreement. I see that as ultimately an agreement that would occur between the businesses and the Samaritan House, and the Samaritan House allowing them to use parking during designated hours, and then the business is also having that conversation with their employees about this available parking. So I don't see the county as being involved in an agreement itself, but if this is something that the council and the property and the business owners would like to move forward, I think we have no issue assisting with that dialogue, and if we can be some assistance to make that happen and to ease some of the congestion and parking issues there, we're happy to do that.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Council members, do you have other questions?
Just on the issue of the planters, and again, you said you thought that it was more aesthetic than traffic calming in the intent, and I don't actually have the background on that, but just a point that I had when you mentioned about the avenues. I know we had some similar issues on entry to the neighborhood, and we couldn't have planters, so because there were gutters. So what there is like a fence, a wooden fence that then goes over the gutter, but accomplishes some of that same kind of. And I don't know if that would be an option, but I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, actually, we're aware of that. So Fifth Avenue has that. There's several locations that have that, and that is one way of spanning the area of the gutters without taking up the space. I think, again, that those were put in where we knew that we had some specific issues of how people were taking that turn. I think the concern on these streets, for example, would be that if you put kind of a narrowing around the corner that restricts traffic, that you will have cars probably backing up on the Fifth Avenue. And so from the standpoint of trying the circulation of traffic through there, that would not really be a good solution.
Any other questions from council? No. Any public comment? And, okay, I'm going to let, since you already filled out a card, Omar, I'm going to let you talk, or make a comment, rather. But you're still limited to 2 minutes. Thank you.
First of all, real quick, I'm glad I came because I was I'm glad I came because this is.
Actually, just go up to the podium.
Oh,
Thank
gosh,
you, Omar.
Jesus. Dearly beloved. I'm glad I came because this is exactly what it is. And honestly, I do represent those specific buildings. The 14 tenants that are in there, 12 in 171 Fifth Avenue, and 2 of them on 151 Fifth Avenue are my tenants. And number one, I did not know that there was parking allowed on the bridge. And you're saying we can park on the bridge? Our tenants can park?
You can, yes.
Wow, okay. Number two, the amount of traffic that goes through Glendale, just to let everybody know, that's been reduced about 98% of what it used to be back in 92 before 94, if you guys don't remember that. So if anybody's griping about that, just tell them to remember that. That was a freeway back there on Glendale.
Yeah.
And number three, on Fifth Avenue, if you go back to your picture, I'm wondering, ever since they did the construction, I've owned the property since then, the only person that complained about this here was Fifth Avenue Rentals. And they're the ones who fought for this little exit out. But this whole section that's red, which is, I think, this here, is that the opposite way? No. This here, if you had the camera this way, isn't there any way that could be parking as well?
You have the turn-in right here, right? So the turn-in between Glendale and Waverly. So I
Okay, excuse me, Omar, your time is up. Joe, did you want to finish answering that? Thank you.
Sure. We can take a look at the dimensions and see if there are possibilities to reorient this, but I think the concern would be that as you come westbound off of Fifth Avenue to the frontage road, that this is where you would come in, make a 90-degree to left, and off 90-degree turn off of Fifth Avenue to the frontage road. This is probably intended as part of the merge. That said, I'm not quite sure exactly what the dimensions are, so certainly we could take a closer look at it. I suspect that we're not really going to think that there's that would be a good area to support traffic, but I can't say that without us taking a closer look at that.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, then, you'll need to fill out a comment card, please, if you want to make any comment. Excuse me? Yeah, just fill it out. And Nancy, you can go fill it out and then, yeah, go ahead to the podium.
My name's Nancy Zarro, 87 Columbia. Thank you very much for the presentation, by the way. It's very thorough. I had a question. I know in Menlo Park, Laura had mentioned these wooden entries, and it would, resolve the curb issue. But in Menlo Park, I think it's on Cloud Avenue, they have those. Is the 2 cars as a thoroughfare a requirement? Because I'm pretty sure in Menlo Park, 2 cars cannot get through safely where those are installed. That was my first question. And then I actually have a comment to the community. A lot of the facilities in this tight area and all this extra parking that's being used is because it's being used for storage, the property, instead of the parking on the property that it was intended for. And I'm hoping that the property or renters would consider that their employee parking is already provided. A lot of it's already provided within their facility, but they're not using it because they're using it for either dead storage or materials. And I hope that they would think about that. No, it's further, like the landscaping company and all those, we're all through that. So that's part of it. My time is probably up anyway.
Yeah.
I really hope we can reconsider, because it's not just slowing down traffic, which is the intention, but it's to keep the community safe.
Right. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Kent, I need a card from you, please. All right, thank you.
I am very pleased that the Waverly entry planters and the Columbia entry planters made it to Joe and Public Works list. The Glendale planters did not. And as you know, the planters at East Selby Lane have been incredibly successful in visually identifying that you're entering a neighborhood where people ride bikes and people live in their community. Understanding that the Waverly entry is minorly shorter, thinner than the Selby Park entry, I think there are design solutions that still allow a small bulb out, because it's the bulb out, even if it's a foot, that clearly identifies a different environment. If, as suggested, that if funded by the citizens, it could be put on the median strip, it's going to get lost to people zooming through a neighborhood. So I think there are many design solutions. The entry planters in Selby entry are about this wide. Enough for a gutter, enough for the sign, and enough for us to plant plants. If that has to be reduced just a little bit, I'm sure we can work with the county and design those. So I'm encouraging the council not to dismiss the concept of bulb outs for these neighborhood signs, no matter how small they are, because it's critical to identifying to people that you're leaving the business corridor and you're entering a neighborhood.
Thank you, Kent. Thanks. I'm going to need to, if you just have a question, Nancy, I need to move on with the agenda.
Oh, I just wanted to know if the two cars, that never got addressed, in two vehicles is just specific to Redwood City, or it's statewide?
This is all North Fair Oaks. It's,
Just specific to North Fair Oaks?
no, I'm saying that the areas we're talking about are all the same. We're all in North Fair Oaks.
For the two cars need to be able to get through in the entrance, that's my question.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to be able to give you a direct. I don't know if that is a uniform standard everywhere. I can tell you that that's our practice. Now, I think when you look at chokers, I think you generally will probably recognize that the situation around a particular intersection may not be the same as around a different intersection. So if you're trying to address a different problem, then I think it's quite possible that you might somewhere go ahead and reduce to less than 2 through lanes. I can tell you that when we've talked to the fire districts that support most of the services within the county, that is not something that the fire districts support, and that, not surprisingly, because for them, more room is better, and right. So I don't know if it's a, to what extent it's a standard. I can tell you that as far as a county practice, unless there were some unique situation that we were trying to address where we felt like it was important not to have 2 lanes. And I think for that, we would normally do that where there was a long straightaway, good visibility, everybody could see what was coming. So to me, that's more of a solution that you wouldn't put real close to a particular intersection.
Okay. Well, Joe, thank you very much for the presentation, and you've heard the comments, and council's not making any decisions on anything tonight in regards to this matter, but you've heard the comments, and I'm sure we're going to be discussing further some of those kind of open-ended, such as the entries and possibly the shared parking piece. But thank you very much for the presentation.
Okay. So thank you, and if in fact, I guess, work through Irving, I don't know if the council wants to formalize any comments back to Public Works, but we're closely with Irving, and we can figure out if, if you want to have some additional dialogue, how to do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you. Okay, we're going to,
I just want to add one thing about the entry gates and the note that was made about Cloud, that is a county unincorporated area. It's not Menlo Park, and so it's the same, it's one of our county pockets, just like North Fair Oaks. So I just want to clarify that, because I think you were making a distinction between Menlo Park and, right. Right, that's a county area, and I think part of that came into play when we we trimmed down the lanes in Alameda, and there was a big concern that now everybody was going to be driving through the neighborhoods. So I think those were connected, if I remember correctly. But anyway,
Okay.
I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, we're going to move on to approval of council training plan and topics. And we're just going to review what we've done so far, and then if council members have any questions. The council's been looking at how they use their time, and we have agreed that we need to continue our professional development in light of having new members, but also just in keeping basically ahead of it, and being on top of training and development. So what we've done is we've looked at using our time during study session. Right now, the council's scheduled regular council meetings. Let's see, third Thursday of each month are study sessions, and fourth Thursday of each month are regular council meetings. So rather than create a new meeting date for additional professional development and study of other issues that are relevant to the community, we're going to utilize our time during study session scheduled meetings. And so we've just been spending some time thinking about this. We want to cover, as part of our ongoing development, team building for council leaders, and actually giving opportunity for the newer council members and the ones that have been on for a while to basically get to know each other, have more information about where everyone's coming from. We all come from either businesses or we're working with nonprofits. We have school district here. We have the library system here. We have private. We have community residents and community merchants here. So we're all coming from different angles, so it's always good to basically understand everyone's point of view, and that helps in the council working more cohesively and making decisions, making those important decisions that are put before us. Also, along with that, there are certain roles and responsibilities that council members need to understand, such as Brown Act, some of the rules and regulations for this type of community government. And it is a community government. We recommend to the Board of Supervisors on matters that pertain to North Fair Oaks. The third part of what we're looking at is really getting a good list of working of issues. We've come up with a partial list, and we're building on that. But some of the issues we're going to pursue are going to be around affordable housing, the issues around displacement and gentrification, sustainability of local businesses. Let's see what else here. Land use approvals. And I don't have, this is my short list. I don't have the other issues that came up. I believe some of the other issues were around employment. I don't know, can you think of anything else that, but the Middlefield Road design. And also the work that's being done in the work groups. As a result of the North Fair Oaks Community Plan, There were several work groups that were established around public art, zoning, parking, and parks and outreach. And so those groups continue to meet and continue to discuss the issues and come up with ways to implement new plans for the community. So we have our basket, or whatever you call it, is full. And I think that it's important that we also hear from the public if there are issues that you feel need to be studied. We welcome your input. Okay, we came up with our list as we see it from our perspective, but you're always welcome to give input on that. And the meetings held on the third Thursday of each month are open to the public, so please join us. Okay. Any questions or comments about any of that, council members?
I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Was it decided what and when we were going to do the training? Did you talk to Pat, and did she specify? Because I remember she had suggested one option, and then we thought that the combination of two of those options was
Yes.
preferable.
So rather, I believe starting with the April study session, we had agreed to do, since it's a 2-hour time slot, to do 1 hour for council development, and then the second hour on, I'm not sure which issue. I don't think we picked an actual issue. Oh, roles and responsibilities, okay. So kind of mix it up so that we don't go for months without discussing issues. Because the study session time is really the only time that we have to discuss issues. And we're not making any decisions, there's no action. So that's the time to get the information and ask questions. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's the first time we're going to do it this year, so it'll be something new, but I think it's good. It's basically time management and planning everything that we need to do and get it accomplished. Yes, Rebecca. Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was just agreeing. I just want to thank the Office of Supervisor Slocum for allowing us to have this type of dialogue going forward. It's going to be really good for us to have just a cohesion of like a curriculum to follow as a unit. I love that, and I think it's important for any team. And I think it's great how all of our team is now embodied with the Norfolk Oaks Community Plan. I believe everyone has their copy. So that's going to be really helpful moving forward in meetings. So we appreciate you guys getting all this information for us. So.
And actually, everyone does have their copy?
Yeah.
The glossy one?
I looked around.
Oh, okay, good. You got the good one. Okay. If there's no other questions from council, any public comment on what I just said? No? Okay. Hi, Marianne. You did, but I'll fill you in. Okay. Marianne's from Selby Park. She missed that presentation we just ended. Okay, all right, well, so moving on, we have reports to council, and we're going to start with Irving is going to report from Supervisor Slocum's office.
Good evening, members of Norfolk Oaks Community Council. I'll be reporting on behalf of Supervisor Slocum tonight. So a couple announcements that I want to make. First off, Lieutenant Reed, as you know, who's always been coming in over the past several years, making announcements, is actually going to be retiring. So he's going to be actually retiring this week. And so next month in the new sheriff's report, we're going to actually introduce you to the lieutenant who's going to be making the reports. Also want to let you know that Pedro Maceo, who used to be the executive director of CARON, is actually now the sergeant. So he's actually at So he's in a new role, so he's no longer the executive director of CARON. So it's actually going to be Victor Lopez. So he's going to be the new executive director for CARON. And I will actually coordinate with the sheriff's office so that way Victor Lopez can actually attend next month's meeting as well. Since obviously there's going to be a presentation by the sheriff's office as well. And then real quick in regards to next month's North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting, we are actually going to be having a feast. So the sheriff's office is actually going to be providing some food courtesy of Chavez Supermarket. So if council members, if you can actually be here by 6:15, so that way you can get some food courtesy of Chavez Supermarket. And the next item on the list is we've actually been coordinating with Raphael to develop a landlord-tenant informational workshop. And so that's actually going to be held on April 7th. And basically, this is going to be one of 4 sessions that we're actually going to have in North Fair Oaks. So we're actually going to be coordinating with Mary Martinez to have one at Fair Oaks Elementary School. The next one will probably be at Garfield Elementary School, and then the next one's going to probably be at Fair Oaks Community Center. And so the idea is for the tenants to kind of know about the rules and responsibilities from their side, as well as like the landlords. And so we have expert panelists, Project Sentinel, Legal Aid Society, the San Mateo Superior Courts, and then a representative from the landlords are going to be on the panel. Explaining kind of like the process for like the tenants and constituents that come and attend these informational forum. So we'll probably provide you more details as we get closer to these dates. And feel free to attend. And like I said, I want to thank Raphael for his leadership, in terms of helping us set up this informational forum moving forward. So the next announcement that I want to make is, as you know, the Board of Supervisors actually held an affordable housing study session. So basically, they looked at 11 strategies that the county could look at in terms of affordable housing. And so they've actually looked at 10 strategies the board fully supports for further study and implementation. The board has asked staff to look at the cost of implementing rent stabilization in the light of limited number of housing units that would be eligible under the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act, which is a state law. So at the board's request, the staff of San Mateo County will prepare a report that answers many of the board's questions, lays out the implementation steps along with the timeline for moving forward. So there's going to be another set date that the board's going to set to kind of give an update for the community. I will actually send a link of the conversation that occurred at the Board of Supervisors meeting. So I will send you the link so that way you get a chance to actually hear and see, what the board talked about. And then just wanted to make 2 more announcements. So one, I'm on a committee basically called OAA, and basically it's a youth conference. As you know, last year I made the announcement, and Jose's on the committee for the EOA conference. And so basically it's a youth conference, ages 12 to 22, and the idea is to kind of promote leadership. There's multiple workshops where kids can identify how to overcome obstacles, setting plans for their future, and then there's also parent workshops as well. And so this is an all-day event. It's going to be held here Saturday, May 16th at the Fair Oaks Community Center. It's going to be from 8:30 to 3 p.m. And then we are actually privileged to actually have 2 amazing keynote speakers, and one of them is actually Raphael, so he's going to be this year's keynote speaker for the OYE conference. And so I actually have a flyer here, and it's actually in the back too, so if you want more information, sponsors, the San Mateo Credit Union, the San Francisco Foundation, Redwood City, Facebook, and other sponsors as well. And then last but not least, the North Fair Oaks Youth Initiative has actually been working with the amazing Ellie Dahlman and Ashley Quintana on mini grants. And so actually 2 years ago, the North Fair Oaks Youth Initiative established kind of like a mini grants. And so basically the idea is to kind of promote and serve in North Fair Oaks and East Palo Alto, and kind of healthy living, others various projects as well. And so right now there's actually an application, so those who are interested in applying. And the deadline is actually April 24th of this year. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to either give me a call, give Carmela Meehan a call, who's the director for the program coordinator for the North Oaks Youth Initiative, or Ashley and Ellie. And then if you have more questions in terms of how to apply, I know Raphael and the Siena Youth Center applied last year and the year before that, and they actually were one of the recipients who received the grant. And I believe the grant's up to $1,500. And so that is all I have for tonight. Do you have any questions?
The housing workshop, is that strictly tenant rights? What are those housing workshops?
So it's both.
that you mentioned?
It's both tenants and landlords. So the roles and
Tenants and land,
yeah.
okay.
So it's I mean we're actually gearing towards like specific neighborhoods in North Fair Oaks, and so the first session is going to be around like the Siena Youth Center, the residents around there. Fair Oaks Elementary School will probably be around their area, but the idea is to it's open to anybody who wants to attend, but it's basically understanding the roles and responsibilities as a tenant, and then roles and responsibilities as a landlord as well.
And council's going to get a calendar?
Yeah.
with
So
all
I will
that
actually
stuff.
send
Great.
information and details, and please feel free to attend. And as I mentioned, Raphael is going to help us start it, and then we'll be in contact with Mary Martinez to set a date for the event at the Fair Oaks Elementary School, and then the rest of the sessions. So, yeah.
How are you advertising that to the general public, the event?
So specifically, we are actually targeting. So Raphael's going to start it off. So we actually had Raphael and make an announcement at one of his parent action meetings, and so we're targeting specifically at those like geographic locations where they're at, just because obviously parents from like Fair Oaks probably wouldn't come all the way. So we're actually going to try to, do in different locations in North Fair Oaks. It'll be closer, and then we're going to be working with our ally partners, so like Raphael for Siena Youth Center, Mary Martinez for Fair Oaks Elementary School, Patricia Ortiz from Garfield, who's also a community school coordinator. So we're going to be working with our allies and kind of helping to outreach.
But in general, it's open to all, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be open to the public, so.
Laura? As far as the housing, I'm not sure how this housing has to do with the strategies that were discussed by the supervisors.
So in terms of the landlords and tenants workshop, informational forum, so this actually came out of two things. One, Assembly Member Kevin Mullen actually hosted a tenants landlord informational forum on February 26th. And so we actually saw the flyers, and we thought it would be great to actually host one in North Fair Oaks. And the reason why was because a while back, Supervisor Slocum met with a couple of neighborhoods, and they were asking kind of just like some type of resource and some type of education. And so that's kind of where it all came out. And so, I talked with Raphael just because, where Supervisor Slocum heard these comments were around the Siena Youth Center. So we thought to kind of have it first, and then move forward and kind of see how all these sessions are going to turn out. So
Okay, so I guess my question though was really, I didn't know how that was related, but I wondered if any of the strategies that were considered, unfortunately I wasn't able to be at the meeting, by the supervisors on housing, did any of them address the core problem, which is having more big companies move into the area, and where we have an infrastructure that can't possibly support all of those employees, because the myth is that they are going to hire locally, but they don't. They bring in more people. We have more and more people coming to an area where it's not possible to support that number of people, either with housing or any other kind of infrastructure, and the companies aren't being asked to pay a fair share. And to me, that seems like the core of the issue, is that they're just building more and more and more and saying yes to everything. Is anyone addressing that aspect? Because that seems to be the core of the housing problem.
So to my knowledge, there's been like public comments and discussions based on that during that day. I know the part of the 11 strategies was just like legalizing second units, impacts and mitigation fees. But I know the public comments were, brought up regarding those concerns.
But nobody's actually looking at or addressing that.
So, in terms of the next steps, I'll probably get more clarification. And so maybe part of my next report will probably give you, the council, an update.
Yeah, there was a lot of testimony, and those were some of the things that were brought up. Of the 11-point platform that was presented, or the white paper, I think the one area that the board was very hesitant about pursuing was the rent stabilization piece. But they got a lot of testimony and comments from the public. So, it's, I think, and everybody said it, it's the beginning. It was the first, dialogue I've ever seen the board participate in when it comes to housing. So it was a good start, but nowhere is it close to being finished. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good start. And I like the idea of doing the, it's block organizing. It's neighborhood organizing around tenant rights. That's the way, that's the most, I think that's the most positive, that's the way it works in North Fair Oaks, because you're right, not all the neighborhoods are the same, and everyone has their own, issues. So that's the way to do it. Sounds good.
Sure,
I'll be there.
and like I said, this is going to be 4 sessions, and hopefully, we'll get some feedback, and obviously Raphael and Mary will be part of that discussion as well. And like I said, I'll give the dates to the council for you to attend, and I think we'll hopefully receive some information and see how it goes moving forward for these sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So will the meetings be held in English or Spanish? And if
Oh,
English,
yeah.
will there be translation?
Yes, so we are actually going to have an interpreter for all these sessions. And so we're working with the panelists and the interpreter to make sure that, everyone is able to understand it. And so I know with Raphael's group, and especially the neighborhood that we're first having these study sessions, we're going to have a Spanish interpreter there. And, they're going to have headsets, and they'll be able to kind of fully listen and be engaged in the conversation. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Irving. Thanks. Okay, we have Office of Sustainability. So there's about 1, 2, 3, oh no, you're talking on the rodeo, correct? Yeah. So there's 4 agenda items under your presentation.
Yes.
You're going to give a little spiel on each one then?
Yeah, not too
Okay.
long. Maybe just like
Okay,
a minute or 2
thank
on
you.
each. Good evening, council members. My name is Gordon Tong. I'm with the county's Office of Sustainability, and I'm here to give an update on a couple of projects that we've been working on. I'll start off with our C-Click Fix project. If you remember, it's a mobile application for smartphones which will allow residents to report non-emergency issues to the county. Right now, we are in the testing phase. It's actually available right now on the App Store. So if you search for Report It SMC, you can download it and test it. We have a date for a soft launch for the first week of April. And we're hoping to work out the kinks with this sort of application in that process. We're looking for a cleanup, or we're looking for a official launch day in May 30th to coincide with the Community Cleanup Day. We'll also bring a more detailed presentation to the council in May to update on the more details about this project. The next project I'd like to bring up is a potential Adopt-a-Block program for that might be piloted in North Fair Oaks. So this is part of the county's efforts to reduce trash in our storm drains. And what we're thinking is that we could use this Adopt-a-Block program, which will entail businesses or organizations or groups of residents that could team up and help clean up a section of a block or a street at a regular interval. And in return, the county would provide a lot of the cleaning supplies and the trash pickup and resources and trainings and promotion and an overall program management of this program. So we are sort of in the early stages, but we'd love to hear any feedback that the council might have in terms of locations or businesses that might be good potential candidates for this program. Similarly, the next item is a sort of a cigarette butt receptacle study. So the county is looking to install 2 cigarette butt receptacles in North Fair Oaks that will allow us to study sort of the effects that they have on reducing the amount of litter throughout the community. This would involve the county will purchase and install these receptacles, and all that we require would be a business to maintain them at a regular interval. This might be a big ask, so we're trying to incorporate it into an Adopt a Block program. So businesses that are interested in adopting a block might be able to have one of these receptacles installed and maintain it as part of their Adopt a Block duties. So we are also soliciting feedback in terms of what would be good potential locations and what businesses would be interested in this sort of project as well. The next item is something called Community Choice Aggregation. We're calling it CCA for short. And what this essentially is it will develop an entity that's very similar to PG&E, where it would give residents a different option in terms of where their energy comes from. So right now, all you can do is get your energy from PG&E. So what this CCA will do it will allow residents to choose between either the CCA or PG&E in terms of where they get their energy. The benefit of this is that the CCA has the potential to bring more renewable energy to whoever buys it. So under PG&E, you get 20% of your energy roughly comes from solar, wind, small hydro projects. So underneath the CCA program, residents can opt to have 100% of their energy come from renewable sources. So we would be happy to come by and do a more detailed presentation about what this would entail and how it would affect the community in terms of the options that are available to them. Right now, we're working with a bunch of other cities around the county to sort of front this study to examine whether or not this project will be feasible for the county. But we do have buy-in from all the cities to perform this study. So we're studying the amount of energy that the whole county uses and seeing how this would affect the program. So if the council is interested, we can come back at a later date and do a more detailed presentation. And finally, I just want to briefly mention that our office is working closely with District 4 staff and Councilmember Avendano on a bike rodeo that's scheduled here for the June 6th. And that's the extent of my update, but happy to answer any questions or listen to your feedback.
What was that last thing?
I'm sorry, so it's a bike rodeo that will be held here on the 6th.
On June 6th? Okay.
Oh, sorry, June 6th.
What's a bike rodeo? Well, are you going to?
I can talk about that.
Sure.
He's
yeah.
going to report on that.
Yeah, so I was next. Thank you for talking about that. Yeah, Lori Pastorelli, Irving, and I have been talking about, the bike rodeo again. It was this will be the 2nd annual bike rodeo. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. here at the Fair Oaks Community Center. And it's going to entail learning how to ride a bike, learning how to get better at riding a bike, coming and earning a helmet if you don't have one, which is great. And also we're going to have booths from departments of the county, so promoting parks, such as, San Mateo County will be here, as well as I'm inviting our friends from Open Space to come so we could promote more of the open space, as I'm a big fan of them. So we're really excited to partner with a lot of the different county organizations to bring it all to our community. And I know Ever's going to come on that day, which is great. And I'd love for any other council members to come. We're actually going to have a launch lunch, because everybody got to eat, to learn more about this event. And it's going to be great. It's going to be held on May 12th, 2015. It's a Tuesday. So if you like free lunch and you like bikes and you like having a good time, if you don't even like bikes but you like kids smiling, you need to come to this event. It'll be good. You can't miss it. You could get free lunch, and there'll be raffle items. Lori's been great. She's getting raffle items from all over, Amazon, movie tickets, and also, the supervisor's going to be there really promoting this event, and I'm working on getting some guest speakers. to just promote biking more, because it's important to have a safe alternative for our kids to ride. And right now, that isn't much of an option, but that's going to change with us. So
what's the date? I thought you said June 6th, and then you said May 12th.
yeah, so thank you for clarifying. Tuesday, May 12th, 2015 is the launch lunch. So to learn more about the event, right? And then the major event will be held on Saturday, June 6th. And flyers are coming out this week, so you should be seeing flyers soon, because our PR team is actually the youth. So this is going to be, all the youth are handling everything with PR. They're going to be door to door. They're going to be in their schools. So we would love for, on this day, if you can commit to bringing at least 10 kids. Each person brings 10 kids. We're going to hit our goal, which is to have 200 kids educated that day with biking safety. So
What time on May 12th?
it's going to be lunch. So yeah, it's going to be from 12 to 1:30 latest. If you want to stay and chat, I'll be available till 2. Don't worry.
And then will you guys go to schools to show the flyers, or?
That's the thing. Yeah, we have a set amount of flyers, but we're kind of saying each person commit to bringing a certain amount of kids, just so that we have the strong commitment of people. All right, I have 10. I'm gonna bring 10 for sure, so that we have our groups. Kind of like what Irving's strategy is, to use our allies, just so we have a set number for that day. Yeah, and who wants to have leftover food, right? Come on, let's eat it all, right? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions or feedback on the programs?
Any questions?
Sign up to join.
Are you for?
Which one?
Oh,
Oh,
so
for the clean?
yeah. So the Adopt a Block program is still in its early stages. We're just right now we're kind of reaching out to the community, seeing whether or not they think it's a good idea or not, and then we'll have a fully fleshed plan. And we can come back to the council later when we have this outline sort of figured out, and then solicit more feedback and more participation, things like that.
Beatrice, you had a question?
I have a question. Lately, I've been getting a lot of people coming through our area who are the middle person to procure gas for your home. They announce themselves as representing a company where they can, like the middle person that procures the gas part of the PG&E. And I've had several of them come by. They're walking, they're usually youth. They're usually representing companies outside of our area, but they seem to be in the North Fair Oaks area a lot. And what they do is that they look at your PG&E bill and they say, you're paying so many cents per therm of gas. Well, we can get it cheaper. Our company can get it for less. Do you have any knowledge of these of this type of, or like why all of a sudden we're seeing them so visible?
That is not any program we know of. The CCA program that we're talking about, for one thing, it's not off the ground yet. We're still doing a study. It's to figure out why if it's feasible or not. I don't know anything about that. I've never heard of people trying to be as a middleman. I'm not even sure that is possible.
Right, no, it is
So-
possible, and
Oh,
it
it
is
is.
happening, and I don't know exactly who to address this issue towards, but I've been seeing them a lot since last summer in our area.
I have a comment about that,
Sure.
just because we recently had with the sheriff's office a neighborhood watch meeting, and they were very clear that people who are going door to door soliciting a lot of times are not legally in the area because they need a permit if they're with a company, and they should show you the permit. I mean, this I know is a separate topic, but there is a lot of this kind of thing going on as people scope out for burglaries, which there have been quite a rash of burglaries, and a number of the techniques for scoping out have to do with people walking door to door and doing this kind of thing. So I would just say, I don't know about these companies, but I would be cautious, and the sheriff's office really was adamant that we should call them on their non-emergency number and give full information about anybody walking door to door with this type of thing.
Yeah, and I would tell my neighbors, don't sign anything,
Don't show them
don't
the
give
bill.
any money, don't show the bill, and just, if they have a flyer to leave, take the flyer until we get some more information about that. Yeah, because there's a lot of scams going on, especially with our seniors. We have a lot of seniors in the community that get a lot of phone calls and people knocking on the door, so. Ever, you had a question?
Yeah, this was about the cigarette receptacle, and I'm wondering if those are going to be combined with trash cans or if they are separate.
They will be separate receptacles than from trash
Okay.
cans, yes.
Okay, because also there's a great need for trash cans, you know, in major areas where the public congregates. So I'm not sure if it should be a priority, you know, for trash cans, or both, if possible, or maybe a combination of the two. I know there are some trash cans that have a cigarette receptacle like in the middle. So it would be ideal.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely consider it.
And my second question is about the Adopt a Block. Do you know if there are any other cities implementing these, and what is the success rate?
Yes, so it's there's no sort of central body that controls this program through the county. Each city or county sort of does their own thing. It's been implemented in Hayward, I know for sure, and a couple of other cities. They've had a pretty good success rate, actually. They have a lot of testimonies about how well people are engaged in their community. They get out and do stuff, and brings out more of a brings out the image of people out in the streets and doing things and helping out. And it also does a really good job of keeping the streets clean. So yes, there is a success rate in a lot of other cities.
Thank you. I would like to just add a comment, and this is in regards to the community choice aggregation point. I personally would like to have a more elaborate presentation about the options, if possible. I don't know about the other community members.
Yeah,
but
I think
it would be very helpful.
So it looks like, yeah, that's
Okay.
going to be a good idea to get some more information.
Okay, we'll come back at a later date with a better
And
presentation.
I think just knowing what April looks like, we may be looking at May, right, Irving?
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah, not April, but May.
Okay, that sounds
So,
good. We're
yeah.
still rolling out a lot of
Okay.
outreach plans, so that makes perfect
Thank
timing.
you, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have planning and building to give, let's see, parking and zoning work group update. Planning for 2700 Middlefield. Rocket ship project? You can talk about that too?
Very briefly.
Okay, and code compliance, okay.
So I'm Lisa Awazasa with the Planning and Building Department, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I just wanted to touch briefly on 4 projects or programs that the department is working on relative to North Fair Oaks. And the first is the ongoing work of the Parking and Zoning Work Group. The group has been meeting monthly to continue to review draft zoning ordinances for the Middlefield Road corridor. And these regulations will implement the land use policies of the North Fair Oaks Community Plan. And at present, we are working on the neighborhood mixed-use zoning district, which covers the segment of Middlefield Road from about semicircular to First. So that's the first segment that we've been working on. And to date, we have discussed the proposed land uses that will be permitted in that area. We've talked about land use definitions for those land uses, and we've reviewed proposed development standards. The next thing we're going to be tackling at our April 7th meeting will be proposed parking standards for future development in that area of Middlefield Road. And if we are able to stick to our current schedule, we expect to be able to present the zoning regulations to your council at your June meeting. So that's the schedule we're working with right now. And I want to give a shout out to Ashley and Ellie. They've been attending our meetings to facilitate our work, and that has really helped us, I think, make progress and move further forward in developing these regulations. So thank you to those two. And then I did want to talk very briefly about our planning efforts for 2700 Middlefield Road. And this is something that we're really just starting with. Planning and building is going to be playing a role as part of a multi-departmental team that will also involve housing and the real property division. Planning for both short and long-term uses for the property that's behind the Fair Oaks Health Center and that the county just acquired. And so we're going to be embarking on a planning effort to see what sort of land uses should be allowed there. And while the North Fair Oaks Community Plan does provide a vision for this area, it calls for high-density, mixed-use, transit-oriented development. We're looking to develop more precise planning and regulations that will direct future development to make sure that we're meeting or that we're being responsive to the community's needs and desires for this area. So that's just really kicking off. I don't have a whole lot to really talk about or to report to you yet on that, but we will be coming back to the council periodically with updates on that effort. So that's something we'll look to bring back to you and to continue to get your input and feedback on as we go forward. And then with regard to the Rocket Ship Charter School, the permits required to allow a new elementary charter school to be located at 860 Charter Street are currently under review by both the county and the city of Redwood City. The site is unique in that the industrial building on the property, which will be converted to a classroom building, is in the city of Redwood City, while the parking lot and playground area is actually in the unincorporated area of the county. So it's a sort of a challenging situation with regard to the permitting for their project. But we are working very closely with the Redwood City staff on simultaneously processing the permits for that project. And right now we are in the environmental review phase. One of the key issues, of course, is traffic, parking, and circulation. So that's where we're at right now. The applicant has submitted a revised traffic study, and that's under review by County Public Works and the Redwood City staff. And I believe we have a presentation on that, a more detailed presentation on the project that we'll be coming back to your council with at your April meeting. So more to come, more detail on that to come. And finally, I just want to touch very briefly on code compliance, our ongoing efforts in that regard. I understand our senior code compliance officer, Anna Santiago, will be before you also in April with a more detailed update on their efforts. But our officers do continue to process a high volume of violation cases in the area. I'm told that in the last 6 months they have worked on 230 cases, most of which have been successfully resolved, and only 50 of these cases remain open at this time. So as I mentioned, you'll get more detail. I think that, is it next month?
May.
Oh, it's May, sorry.
We switch it up.
Okay, so more detail to come on that, but the cases involve a variety of issues, including graffiti, trash and debris, and unpermitted construction that often involves zoning regulation violations as well. So that's something, again, that you'll be hearing a bit more in the future on. So those are just a few things that we've been working on in North Fair Oaks, in addition to processing more routine zoning and building permits. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Can we ask Anna to separate out the cases that are relative to housing? I know that the last time she reported, she spoke a little bit about violations of housing, and then there was some discussion about displacement. And I just want to, in light of what we're doing right now about the different tenant right workshops, the Board of Supervisors 11-point, platform on affordable housing, if she can separate that piece out, so we can look at that separately.
Okay, yeah.
Because I really want to look at those numbers and see, how many violations are they racking up around illegal units or housing, and the second piece about displacing anyone. So, okay.
Yeah, no, we'd be glad
Thanks,
to do
Lisa.
that. I know it's a real concern for us at the staff level as well. We want to be able to, we want to make sure that people are living in safe conditions, but, we don't want to displace people, and it's really difficult right now. So we'll see what she can do to highlight that for you.
Questions?
So I have a question. I realize this may be Public Works, and that's part of the question, is what department handles something like a tree removal? That just in my neighborhood, apparently there are 3 very large trees, old trees being, about to be removed, a couple of large redwoods and a large cedar, and some people think there isn't a very good reason for their removal in light of the fact that we are always trying to encourage having more trees. And I was told by someone that there is absolutely no consequence if someone just chops down like a heritage tree in the North Fair Oaks area. So I'm kind of curious, what is the department that handles that, and is that true, and how would we take a look at that question? I know it's
Yeah, well, it is planning and building. If you, we do process tree removal permits. So if you have a tree that's over 12 inches in diameter at about 4.5 feet off the ground, you are required to get a tree removal permit. And the process is you make an application to the department. We send out notices to people that live within 100 feet. They're supposed to post a poster for 10 days. And we do collect comments from people in the neighborhood, and then make a decision on the application based on the criteria that are in our ordinance, whether the tree's diseased or it's tearing up the foundation, if it's endangering the structure. There's a list of criteria that we look at. And then we issue a decision letter, and that decision can be appealed to the Planning Commission. So that's the process. And, it's just, and despite the fact that a lot of people know there's this process, people do cut down trees without those permits. The best thing to do is if you see, that that's happening, if we can come out there when it's happening, then we can stop it. Either the planning department can come out there, the code compliance officers can come out there, or the sheriff if it's after hours. But so as far as what they do need to do is submit for an application to get an after-the-fact permit. And there are some administrative, there are some fines that can be imposed, but I'd have to double-check. I'm not really sure. It's not through the tree ordinance that those fines get imposed. It's through a separate process.
Because I was told that in some communities you might pay up to $1,000 or more in a fine, but that here there's no consequence. That was just anecdotally from people who had the experience of their neighbors. So
yeah, and and we've gotten, to be honest, we've gotten different opinions from county council about our ability to impose fines under the tree ordinance, because the way our tree ordinance is written right now, it doesn't really allow that. But we do have a new administrative fines process that going forward, I think, does allow us to institute fines. In addition to that, we are working on a revision to our tree ordinance, so that is something that we'll be looking at. We are aware that the perception is there's no teeth in the ordinance, so, yeah.
Thank you.
You have information posted to your website, I think. Planning and Building has information that defines the trees, significant heritage, the measurements, the types of trees. I think all of that is there, the process to get a permit. I think what Lisa's gone over, just in case you're curious.
Right. Well, I was more interested in about the consequences, and also if there's ever any, does it happen that if neighbors complain, you would say no?
Yeah, there's as with any of the permits we process, if the feedback we get from the public is relative to the standards in the ordinance, like, a lot of times there are just disagreements between property owners, and that isn't necessarily something
So
that we
if I-
weigh too heavily. But if there's, another opinion about the condition of the tree, for example, or its value to the neighborhood, we'll consider that.
So, Lisa, if I lived in that neighborhood and had a concern, then I could call planning tomorrow and get a status
Yeah.
on that particular site. So if there are people who want to save the trees, those are old trees. I mean,
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
public
I mean, those are
comment period
old
associated
trees.
with each of the permits.
Yeah.
So we do
Okay.
take public comment, and there is an appeal process with the Planning Commission. I do want to just mention real briefly that Public Works does come into play when the tree is in the public right-of-way. Then there also is an encroachment permit that you need to get from Public Works as well.
And do they, so, I mean, that is interesting because this is kind of a side question, but I'm just really curious because right now they're redoing my street and the county, it's on that schedule of putting gutters in.
Oh.
And there is one section where no gutter is put in. And I was told it's because that property owner objected. There's one tree, and this is kind of a scraggly little tree, and a bunch of ivy. And I was told that this property owner was able to block the gutter going, which is going to mean that flooding is going to occur upstream of that, even though the whole rest of the street has the gutter, and it's in the public right of way. So I'm not quite sure. So that's Public Works, though. Okay.
Yeah,
So if you want me to speak to, is this San Benito?
It is.
And it would be a segment where there's valley gutter on one side, valley gutter on the other side. The property owner, that's the back of their property. They don't have a driveway through there. We look at that as an opportunity to allow water to come down the gutter, have an area where it can infiltrate, instead of just shooting by with a gutter when we have this area that has a lot of vegetation in it. However, I just walked the street last night, and I was talking today about the fact that there is a tree right there in the gutter that is it isn't a heritage tree, it isn't a significant tree, and I think that tree should be removed. The one tree, because it's going to cause the water to shoot around and be problematic. One of the things with your neighborhood, too, is that we need to look for opportunities to allow water to infiltrate.
No,
And so
I noted that, and I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting, but the guy who's working on the street and the gutter said to me, this is going to cause a problem. I don't know why they allowed this. And he outlined what the problem was going to be, so that's why I was curious about it. He says it's going to cause water to back up at this other neighbor's property. Not on my side of the street, but just curious.
Right, and it's just timing is funny, because last night I was walking the job in the evening just to take a look at things. That's one thing I took 3 pictures of and was talking to one of the engineers today about it.
Okay,
Because
well,
that's not
thank
going to
you.
work. The water's going to come down, it's going to be a problem. That's not going to work. I get it. We need to allow the water to infiltrate, but then my vision is eventually it will then get into the gutter and continue towards Fair Oaks. So I'm very aware of
So
that
just
situation.
digging that out a little bit and still leaving the vegetation would
Yeah,
work.
and then
Okay.
you'll notice behind the road narrowings, we put in that river rock, the cobblestone. So we over-excavated,
right,
put in the drain rock, put in the cobble to try to allow another area for infiltration. So
I noticed that. Thought that was great. Thank you, especially on our conversations about that topic.
any other questions for Lisa? No? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much, Lisa. North Fair Oaks Forward report. And your report's going to cover Middlefield Road business owner interview update and public art update in North Fair Oaks.
Good evening, council members, staff, and community. So my name is Ashley Quintana, and this is Ellie Dahlman, and it's great to see new faces. And just a refresher, what we do, North Fair Oaks Forward is a San Mateo County community project, which we come to the community and engage them in future developments and projects happening in the community. So one of the biggest projects that we're currently working on are the business interviews on Middlefield Road. So as I mentioned last council meeting, we were interviewing from MacArthur to 8th Avenue, all the business owners on on that corridor. And we have finally wrapped up our interviews. That being said, if we interviewed 87 business owners. However, those who we did not interview or weren't able to be in touch with, we left our information and are open to interview them later on if they're available. And just as a refresher, this is for the business sustainability plan, which you requested all when doing the recommendation for the Middlefield Road. And we will be having a more generalized summary coming soon to you all. We're getting the data and analyzing as we speak, so it'll be in the future. If you have any questions, let us know, but that will be coming soon to you all.
So are you talking about like in May or?
Well, I would, I would say
Is it about
probably
more.
probably in May.
Okay.
We just want to really just analyze all the information we have and hopefully have in a very visual way as well. So very similar to our infographic when we surveyed the community. So.
Okay, thank you. Great. And I just wanted to come provide you all a quick update on the public art projects that the art work group has been working on. As you all heard about last month, the North Fair Oaks entrance signs have been approved, and we're moving right along with that. Installation specifications are being finalized, and we hope to have the signs installed by this summer, so it's very exciting. In addition to that, the Public Art Work Group agreed to put out a call for artists for 2 projects to use the funds that were set aside by the Board of Supervisors. One of the projects would be to paint a mural. They're hoping somewhere close by the Fair Oaks Elementary School. And then the second project would be for a utility box mural project. So that would be painting county-owned utility boxes located close by any streetlights that the county has. But I'll be working with the Public Art Work Group to develop the application and the call for artists. We're still working out the details, but the idea would be to have a public art selection committee complete the initial application review, and then, of course, your council would be the final approval of any art that would be going up in the community. So are there
Ellie,
any questions?
when is the next work group meeting?
The next work group meeting will be in the beginning of April. I believe it's the second Monday of April, April 7th, Monday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at 5 p.m. at the Fair Oaks Health Center.
So it was decided not to do the tile, the mosaic, like sidewalk type thing?
So that's definitely something that's still on the table. I think in looking at the group was asked to implement art by June of this year. And so these were a couple projects that we will be working on now, and then we'll also be looking at, hopefully with additional funds as we go into the next year, implementing additional projects, including mosaics. Mm-hmm.
What's the general timeline for the mural and the utility box?
So my hope is to have the application and call for artists reviewed, and any feedback the Public Art Work Group has completed at our next meeting in the beginning of April. And so the idea would be that same week to put the call for artists out for about 4 weeks, leave it out there, and then close it up in May, giving us enough, hopefully about a week, to review the applications and then come back to your council if there's time at your May meeting to review the final recommendations for the art.
Is this the first of many art projects?
Yes, that's definitely, I think that's the hope, that this will be the first of many, as it is something that the North Fair Oaks Community Plan laid out for the future.
I would love to invite the committee to a screening that our film and art group has. It's completely led by students, and we have 2 great instructors. Chair Linda actually came and talked to our youth, and they're creating a mural actually for the community, and it's going to be you want to talk a little bit more about it?
They're creating a moving mural that they can move location to location and do presentations throughout the community. So this may be another project down the line that needs to make a connection with the public art work group.
That would be great.
Yeah,
I
and
think-
these are what, seventh graders?
Yeah.
So I had a
Wow.
wonderful meeting with them was it last night or the night before?
Yes.
Oh, God, a couple of nights ago.
Tell me about it.
So they're really enthusiastic about it, and I gave my spiel on why murals are important and who Diego Rivera was and all of that. So, but it looks really good. So anyway, that's happening here, that's happening there. So we need to connect.
Yeah, definitely.
You know.
And also, Mary, if you have any youth who have like visions for art, I think it's important, Jose, also that we get involved in this movement for the art in North Fair Oaks, because art is very dear to my wife and I, and also Linda. She was just speaking history. It was awesome. So yeah, we're definitely interested in this timeline as a group. I think it's.
And also, Rafael, just these events and just all these things happening in the community, NFO Forward, we're trying to get the community to add more to the website. So if you can maybe, I know you have a username, you can add that, or you can send it like an article or just a little snippet of what is happening, because we really just want to add to our website. So
Okay.
that would be great. And then that's just coming to all the council members. If you have any events or anything happening, please contact me or Carol Marks from District 4, because we really do, I mean, it is a community-based website, and we will have a training soon enough just to have a refresher of how to do it. But we would love to get all these events and all these things online. So.
Okay, any other questions for Ashley or Ellie? No? Thank you go ahead, Espy.
Are you giving timeline for those business owners you have not interviewed?
So we did, we've reached out, we stopped by and reached out to all of the business owners, both walking along Middlefield Road, as well as calling or emailing those business owners that weren't present. We left our information at all the locations. We've left messages and called, I think at least 3 times. So if they're moving forward, if they contact us, we will definitely come visit them and do an interview. But otherwise, we're looking just to continue moving forward.
Like about how many of those you have not?
So we've interviewed, as Ashley mentioned, a total of 87. I believe, I don't know the number off the top of my head, I believe in the corridor there's about probably close to 100 businesses. Right.
And we'll have more of those details. We're hoping to do it visually and showing a roadmap, or basically the whole map, and then showing the places that we went and visited. So we'll definitely have a number for you of those who we were unable to get in touch with.
Yeah,
Or
I'll be interested to see who is not responding, because
yeah, that's something that we can provide. And also, just in regards to, I believe, Linda, you had a question last council meeting about the mixed-use residential.
Right.
And we did drove down Middlefield Road, and we have those details, but we're going to double-check with the assessor's office, because we have those addresses, so we just want to make sure that is residential and not just a second floor.
Okay, no, good, thank you.
Yeah, so.
May as well get it all while you're out there, right? Get all that information. Thank you very much.
One more thing,
both of you.
we would
Oh.
love to have NFO Forward at the bike rodeo as a booth.
We're coming.
All right.
They already got it on their calendar. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, council member reports. So Diane is not here. Jose, do you want to give a youth report? And then any other council members that want to give little reports? Okay.
Well, I was just going to say about Oye, but Irvin already got it. So,
the Oye?
Yeah.
Okay. Remind us when that is.
May 16, right?
Yeah, it's Saturday, May 16th, so I have flyers here.
right,
And then I know, actually, Jose's going to be one of the youth MCs at the conference. And then also Diane's actually going to be hosting a workshop with a couple of youth members as well. I think the one is like identifying kind of drug addiction and how to overcome that. So I'll be one of the workshops that they're actually partnering up with another organization.
Yeah, there will also be, Zumba, the importance of it. There's going to be, how to choose a college, how to pay for college. So it's a great event for youth to, come and learn more about college, learn more about why not to do drugs, learn more about how to be healthy in general. And yeah.
And congratulations to Jose, he's headed for Chico,
Thank
Chico
you.
State. My nephew went there, so it's yeah, we. Thank you, Jose.
Yeah,
Thank you. Any other council members, any meetings you've gone to, or any other? No? Yeah? Okay. And yeah, I know. I guess the most important meetings for me this month were the Board of Supervisors affordable housing study session. That was like 5 hours, it seemed. It was long. And then also meeting with the students at the youth center, which was great. And I just want to comment that I did, or the North Fair Oaks Council did receive a letter from Sheriff Monks inviting everyone to the community festival this year. It's far into the summer. It'll take place Sunday, August 16th. And I think, did everybody get? I think everybody got the letter then. So, and I believe the sheriff will be here at the April meeting doing a presentation. And so we're trying to build a better relationship and more partnership with the Sheriff's Department. So I think we're going in the right direction. Any other
Yeah, I have
comments?
a
Go ahead.
comment. I just want to invite any council members or community folk to come and check out our Monday night rides that we have at Siena Youth Center. If you have any kids that are interested in learning how to bike ride or learn bicycle mechanics, we're willing to take, any kids that drop in to teach them how to ride safely in our community. We're having a Monday night ride from Siena Youth Center all the way to Flood Park, actually, in a safe manner, just to teach them. We're kind of being a pilot for Get Healthy San Mateo County. It's a grant that we got, and we're trying to design routes to hopefully have signs to allow our kids to go to these accessible parks. But how do we make it more accessible? We first have to, ride there and find a way to do it safely. So our program is creating maps to do that. And if you're interested in such project, I invite you to come and just talk to me about it, because it's definitely it's a lot of work, but it's good work and it needs to be done, because accessibility is tough to get to green space for our kids, and the more help we have, the better the project will be, and the better we'll have for our community. So it's really fun. You don't need a bike, you don't need a helmet. I could provide that for you. And you could really make a kid's day by coming out and being their co-pilot throughout the ride. So you're all invited. Those of you who are watching via stream, www.sienayc.org. Thank you.
What time? You say it's Monday? What time is the...
All right, so it's Mondays. We meet at 5:45 at Siena Youth Center, and we usually end at around 7:45, right before it gets dark. So we tend to be done with our rides, before it gets dark. Usually, if we take the kids mountain biking, we get back 8:15. So we also do take them mountain biking close by. It's really hard, honestly, to get over the overpass to Marsh Bidwell. So we actually drive them there because it's a tough intersection for them. And that walk is like 15 minutes, so that's time alone. So that's what we're trying to create, So you're all welcome to come join and volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael. Well, if there's no other comments or reports, I'd like to, a motion, please, to adjourn. Someone
move to adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second? Is there a second to adjourn? Okay, thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
That was a good one.